Since the dawn of its creation, cars have been one of the most followed hobbies in the world, with some people basing their whole lives and careers around these things. For some people, it's a passion that lasts 3 months when they get their license. They want a cool car, but once they get into it, they don't really care anymore. For other people, it's a passion and a hobby that they just can't shake off. It's always with them. As you can guess, I'm more in that category. My mum tells me since I was able to talk, I was naming every single car on the street and what model they are and all the stuff that not regular people know. And here we are quite a few years later, and I'm still in that same position. But in the ever-changing world we live in, a lot of governments, especially the one I live in, under Australian government, makes it really hard for us enthusiasts to enjoy our vehicles. I'm just going to get it out the way in the intro because I can already see the 50-year-olds commenting straight away. Yes, safety is very important. Cars, motorcycles, anything with an engine can be very dangerous. I agree. And I'm all for reckless and stupid people getting punished for risking the lives of people that aren't involved in the car scene. If you're driving your car like an absolute a-hole and risking the lives of people just trying to get to and from work or picking up their kids, then yes, you should be punished. Get your car taken off you, go to jail. I agree, that's completely wrong. But when the excuse of safety overrules everything, it makes things hard to enjoy. Yes, going 200 kilometers an hour on a busy freeway with people everywhere should be punished hard. But going a few kilometers over on a dead empty freeway at 2 a.m. shouldn't be the same punishment as that. Same goes if you're at a takeover doing burnouts in the middle of an intersection in the city. Yes, that's very dangerous and illegal. But if you're on a dead empty industrial street and you let the back end slip out for 3 seconds, the punishment shouldn't be as hard as this one. Today's video won't be based completely around those examples I just gave. It'll be around the 3 reasons why the government just won't support the car community and why their rhetoric is completely different to what we want to achieve as enthusiasts. As I set up for the first point, I want you guys to know my name's Performance Nick and I make all types of videos when it comes to cars, enjoying them, filming videos about them, about the laws, car ownership, all the fun and the bad things that come to owning cool sports cars. So before we get into point 1, I'd really appreciate if you guys could comment and subscribe and also give me a little like. Anyways, let's get into the first point. The first reason is the government's push for environmentally friendly cars, as in EVs and hybrids and small displacement engines, opposed to the gas guzzlers we used to have. Back in the 80s and 90s, it was standard to have a 6-litre V8 in a family car, whereas now anything 3 litres or higher is considered a high-performance vehicle, like this. And it's not just cars like this, it's actual supercars and hypercars that are all going to 6 cylinders, 4 cylinders, hybrids. It's not really what everyone wants in the car community. Trust me. The reason the government are pushing so hard against these high consumption cars is due to all these environmental bodies like the EPA and a million different other ones that are going against emissions and how bad these cars are for the environment. I agree, these engines that burn all this fuel isn't great for the ozone and environment and all that stuff. I'm not going to deny that. But targeting sports cars mainly to keep their consumption down is a very small demographic when you compare to all the freight liners out there, the mines, the planes, all these different huge things that burn so much fuel and diesel and petrol compared to sports cars. I don't have an issue with your daily commuter being a hybrid or an EV or a small engine. Fair enough, it's actually going to help you at the pump. You're going to spend less money fueling up the car. But when it comes to that 5% of enthusiasts that want a real sports car, it affects us. And it's not just about saving the environment that the government cares about. There's also a money side to it. Like everything, there's always money on the back end of it. That's the real motivation. To give a real world example here in Australia, when you go to fuel up your car at the pump, well, the prices aren't cheap. You probably think that's because of oil prices getting more expensive with the wars and the viruses and everything going on in the world. But that's not entirely the truth.
I'm going to pull you out of that clip, and as you can see, this doesn't look like Melbourne, Australia anymore. If anything, it looks like the Gold Coast, or like I'm a course dropshipper in Miami. Well, I'm in neither of those. I'm actually in Vietnam, of all places, editing this video. And as I'm editing it, I realised one of the clips corrupted. But what I was getting at in the next point is the reason the government pushed for this fuel to be so expensive, like I said, it's not about viruses or anything like that. It's because of the money they make on it. For reference, in Australia, the government makes over 50 cents per litre of fuel you put into your car. So obviously a full tank of fuel, whatever it is, 50 litres or 100 litres, well, every one of those litres, you're paying $0.50 or more to the government. Just to put it in perspective, I was in Texas about 6 or so months ago. There they've got their own oil refineries and very low taxes, and there for the same fuel I was paying around $1.20 Australian. And for the next level of extreme, if you go to the UAE, well, the fuel they pay there is literally more cheap than buying a bottle of water. It's cheaper to buy a litre of fuel than it is to buy a litre of water, which is just free, comes out of the air. So you can see why the government like to charge their taxes on their fuel, because everyone who fuels up, whether it's a sports car, a bus, a family car, doesn't matter, they're making bank. And as you can see, they made a decent amount of money. taxing our fuel. Anyways, enough of this beautiful view and back to good old Melbourne.
It sounds like I'm just whining about sports cars that drink a lot of fuel and that it's our fault for buying such thirsty cars. But the rise in fuel prices, well, one, it's to stop people buying high consumption cars, and two, it's to feed the government's pockets. But recently there's a push for something called the new Vehicle Efficiency Standard, which will change things a lot for everyone who drives a non-hybrid or electric car in this country. So let's say you're not an idiot who buys a car that drinks fuel like no tomorrow. You buy a regular family car, and one of the best selling cars of all time is the Toyota Land Cruiser. So if you buy a higher end Toyota Land Cruiser, which isn't a hybrid or an EV, well, you could be paying up to $25,000 more because it doesn't meet the efficiency standard. But let's go to number one, the best selling car in this country, on this land, the Ford Ranger. Last year, they sold quite a few of these cars, as you can see. But if they don't change for the better to be more fuel efficient or hybrid or anything like that, well, if this thing goes forward with the efficiency standard, you could be paying up to $17,000 more when you buy the car. This obviously is going to affect performance cars even more than the regular cars, because these manufacturers can't make high performance screaming engines like they used to. Think back 20 years ago, almost every performance car had a V8, V10 or a V12, even in family cars. But come back to today, well, that's not a thing anymore. V8s are getting phased out everywhere, same as the V10s and V12s. We've got to go to hybrids or any form of efficient way to have a 6-litre V12. And most sports cars are now going to 6 and 4-cylinder hybrids, which no one wants. As we can see with the new C63, that has declined horribly. No one wants it. It's pretty much boycotted by the car community. And this makes me laugh when I think about it. The new C63, you can pick one up in Australia, pretty much brand new, for around $160,000, $170,000. But if you were to buy one that's older, a 2023, the final edition of the V8, well, you can see you're spending over $200,000. So the older car with less technology and less performance, people are willing to pay $50,000, $60,000, $100,000 more for this than this. I had to take the hat off because you couldn't really see me. I just looked back at the footage. Don't mind the dusty trim. I got a haircut booked in 2 days. I'm sorry, you have to see this. The second reason, I said it before and it's very true, even though it's kind of sad, the world revolves around money, and that accounts for everyone, from personal people to the biggest governments in the world. Without money, they've got no power. The government know the car community won't go anywhere, ever. There'll always be people that love cars. So they know if they keep fining people, well, what are they gonna do? They're either gonna have to pay the fines or quit the passion. And they know people aren't quitting that passion. The difference between finding car enthusiasts and getting criminals is, well, you can't put us in jail for an aftermarket exhaust. You can do that if you rob someone, but that person who robs someone, you can't just give them a fine for robbing him and let them go back on the street. No, of course, they've got to go through the court system and all that stuff. Whereas us, we just have to pay a fine and then it's cleared. But then they can give us the exact same ticket 2 days later. Whereas the person who committed that crime, a real crime, well, then they have to go through court, they have to go to the jail, that costs money to put them in jail. This way they make money. I always do this in my videos, so I'll flip the script straight to you. I'm gonna ask you a question. If it's all about safety and the well-being of everyone on the road, can you explain to me how me having a louder exhaust or me having a lowered car with bigger wheels is a threat and a danger to everyone on the roads? I've talked about this before, so I won't harp on about it, but this also translates to any form of speeding or hooning, as we call it here in Australia. Doing the smallest little thing can lead to you literally getting the car impounded, paying a $1,000 impound fee, and paying thousands of dollars in fines, including a loss of license. So you're paying thousands of dollars for one little action. And this little action isn't you street racing in the middle of traffic. No, that's bad, you shouldn't do that. But this little action can be you accelerating on the freeway ramp when it's empty and the back end kicks out a little bit. You accelerate and it slides a little bit, but you save and keep going. Well, not good enough. Cars impounded, loss of license, and thousands of dollars of fines. Same thing happens if you're on a dead empty street and you're speeding without noticing it, or the speed limit changes like that from 80 to 60 and you're still going over 80, well, that's it, a loss of license. So the safety aspect of that, it's very questionable, and to me it seems it's more about the money. The exact same thing is with the roadside cameras. I mean, they're literally known as revenue cameras here in Victoria because they're unmarked cars that sit on the side of the road and give fines to anyone who drives past going a few kilometres over the limit. And strategically, these people park on the bottom of hills or around turns where you don't see them coming. And of course, there's no signs. They're like any car parked in the street. And well, you'll get hundreds of dollars of fines for speeding 5 Ks over, 10 Ks over. Yeah, nah, that's it. You're getting fined. This again affects everyone who drives a car, not just us car enthusiasts. Anyone can get a speeding fine. Literally my mum, my grandma, every person I know has got a speeding fine here in Australia because they're so easy to get. But when it comes to the things like I mentioned about your tyres chirping or slipping out or giving it a little pull on the freeway, well, that's it. You're getting the impound, you're getting thousands of dollars of fines. And if it wasn't all about money in the government's eyes, then can you explain to me, would the government care if they stopped speeding fines for just 1 year? To give you a little insight, Last year, the government in Australia made $500 million off of speeding fines. That is more money than most of the major companies in this country. For them, it's a no-loss situation. They're making so much money from these fines. Why on earth would they stop? If anything, they're gonna make them higher prices and make people pay more money to pay off the debt and pay the politicians, you know, the little bit of money they earn. So with all these extreme fines and expensive costs of doing business, aka modifying, owning and driving your car, you should just go to a track or a drag strip and problem solved. Well, that's the third point. Most governments across the world, especially in Australia and in the United States, well, they're closing down a lot of these racetracks and drag strips. The reason all these safe havens for all these race cars and sports cars and drag cars are being closed down is because back in the day, these racetracks were placed far out, an hour or two from your nearest local town or city. Well, now, obviously, with a rising population everywhere, people are expanding out because they can't all fit in the city. So people are getting closer to racetracks. When people live near racetracks, well, they complain, oh, it's too loud, it's too disturbing, my kids can't sleep, all these reasons. So when the council and the government get enough complaints, well, they've got no choice. The people who live there and pay all this land tax and the stamp duty and all that, well, they're complaining. They have to solve the solution by closing down the racetrack. But let's say you want to go do an event. Well, you have to drive hours out of the city to get to your local track. Then when you get there, it's anywhere from $300 to $1,000 depending on the event and how long you want to be there. And then obviously it's the fuel cost to even get there and back. And it's a day trip because it takes that long to do everything. So I'll just ask you a logical question. Another question for you guys to answer. Let's say you've got a car like this. You know, you're excited, it's a rear-wheel drive car. You want to do a little 10-second burnout. Option A, do we do a 10-second burnout at midnight in an empty industrial area? Option B, do we dedicate a whole day going to the track and spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to go do the same thing? I'm not defending either side, I'm just explaining. And recently there has been a big rise in street racing, especially in the United States. There's a similar reason for that also. Not to play devil's advocate here, and I'm not promoting dangerous activities like that, but if people have spent their whole lives building cars that are meant to go fast on the drag strip, for example, but all their local drag strips have shut, well, they're not just going to quit the sport. They're going to go out and do street racing and drag racing at 3 a.m. in the middle of nowhere with other people who are in that exact same situation. And a lot of street racing brands like Quiet Club actually mention this. Yes, their brand is based around street racing, but even they are defending the tracks. People who want to do it legally can't do it legally, and that's why they're doing it illegally now, because they've been forced into a hand that they have no option to go anywhere else. So those are the three main reasons on why the government in Australia and worldwide don't want to support us car enthusiasts and the car community. I want to say a thank you for everyone tuning into this video and seeing the reasons why it's hard for us enthusiasts to enjoy what we do. I know a lot of people will disagree with the points I made, so if you do, please put in the comments down below what you believe and what I said incorrectly, and I'll try to reply to all of them. And if you agree with me, let me know down there as well. Make sure you like and comment and subscribe on this video. It honestly makes my life so much better when I see things like that popping up on my feed. And I'll see you in a week's time. We post every Tuesday night, so I'll see you in exactly a week. Till then, take care. See you later.